Welcome to Moment Talk. I'm your host, Shiso Moa. It is episode 11. We're going to talk about domestic violence because it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Today we have my co-host, Mai, and this is another side I've never knew of her, even though she's my friend and my co-host, that she was in a abusive domestic violence marriage. I'm just speechless. At the same time, I have so much to ask her. But yeah, let's thank our sponsors and then we'll get right into the show. Today's sponsor is brought to you by She Sells Menswear. Are you looking for the latest trendy men's fashion? Look no further. She Sells Menswear carries handcrafted bow ties, suit accessories, and everyday streetwear. They are your one-stop mom-inspired men's shop. You can search them online at www.xixomenswear.com. Now let's get back to the show. I'm usually pretty enthusiastic for every episode, but this is my dear friend Mai Tao, and it's just so harsh to listen and talk to her into this episode. But hey, how's it going, Mai?
Hey, dude.
Hello.
Everything's going well. Everything's going well. I think that being that it's domestic abuse violence awareness month, it has kind of weighed a little bit heavy on my heart lately. So I thought that perhaps my story needs to be shared. And just really give people a different, like a deeper insight of what the mindset is of the abused victims or people who has been in an abuse situation. So yeah, I am looking forward to sharing it.
Awesome. We do want your perspective on it is to be on a female side and a ex wife divorce of three handsome boys, and we're gonna take this back.
No, no. Not three handsome boys. Two handsome
Two
boys
handsome
and
boys.
one beautiful daughter.
Correct. Take that back. Two handsome boys and one beautiful daughter. Let's go back. Let's go way back. I mean, growing up, did you grow up in a very abusive family, like mom and dad?
Honestly, growing up, I don't recall being seeing it. Definitely there was no physical abuse towards my mom nor my dad. However, I'm sure the emotional abuse and the verbal abuse was there. Um, quite honestly, growing up, as kids, I never really noticed it, but I knew that my dad, he had a temperament. He had triggers. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if that did happen.
I bring this back because I want to see if this was any, indication to have an upbringing. They say the good old saying, I mean, and I don't always apply to all, but they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So it's one of those things like if your son's like that, you're gonna be, your son's like that. Your mom's like that, you're gonna be like your mom. But it's not
Hmm.
always, but
Yeah.
it's does show some resemblance. So that's why we want to take you back way back then. You were married, and let's go back to your ex-husband. Was he also come from a abusive family and such? Because I mean, you're talking about domestic violence. When I'm gonna try to go down and deep dive back.
Right. So, yes, I got married at a very young age. I was 13 when I got married. My ex-husband, he was 14. This was not at all any arranged marriage or forced marriage. We were just two young puppy loves who thought, we knew what we were doing, and it was never um, something that my parents had supported from the beginning. They had tried to make me go back when they found out that I, took off and got married. However, long story short, it fell through. So I got married at a very young age. So did he. Um, And shortly after we got married, the abuse started. And of course, at a young age, we don't know what abuse is. Neither I didn't know, nor did he. Mm, It was not something that was talked about in our families. Um, so we just didn't know.
Mm-mm. So you mentioned that you got married at a young age. He was 14, you're 13. The abuse pretty much started shortly afterward. Pretty sure you were young and naive. Obviously, both of
Hmm
you are clueless of what even
hmm
life is, or what love is. Uh, at that time, were you forced to get married? You said no, right?
No, it was
Okay.
nothing like that.
Okay. So you guys two came to an agreement to just get married at a very young age. Um,
Correct.
well, so let's go back. When you're 14, you're going to high school. How did that? I mean, what did he always? What do you at class? You guys have the same class? Did he hold your hand, or more like he just gave you dirty looks? Because you said that the abuse was was this physical or just verbal?
Um, the first time it was physical. Well, it was actually with the Bambla Yonga.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it
and
was
that
physical. Okay,
was yeah. So that was when he first. That was when the first strike happened.
okay.
Um,
Was it something
and
that you did, or is this out of his frustration and whatever triggered
yeah,
that?
it was just out of frustration. I remember we were in the bedroom. I forgot what we were talking about. Um, and I think he had asked me. I can't really recall, but I think he had asked me about. I think one of my past relationships or something that happened way before we got married. And I couldn't tell him, like I couldn't remember. And I think you know, this is just what I believe. Um, he didn't believe me. He thought I was lying. So from the get-go, he had already a lot of trust issues. Um, and because he thought he was lying, he thought that maybe he was to hit me with the fly swatter or swapper, then that I would confess. But when you tự tin hiểu chuyện đàn ấy, let's của him but cái đó you stick to the truth. That would typically be the case. So in my situation, that was the case.
I mean, of course, you were in tears and just mad, in love, feared, and also just emotional all at the same
Well, you
time.
know what? Yeah, you know what? At that time, I was confused. I was shocked. Like, what in the world just happened? Um, and that was pretty much it. I was just confused. I don't know what the heck. I didn't know what the heck just happened.
Okay, now,
And now when I think back, when I reflect back, not now, but after our divorce, and after I had a lot of time to reflect on it, it was the beginning of the abuse.
okay, this I'm assuming getting just the beginning where after your first child or right before or right, prior you get done high school?
The abuse.
Yeah.
The abuse happened early in our marriage. I didn't have my son until 3 years later, so the abuse happened really, really early in our marriage. I would say within the first couple of months.
Mm. Whatever he was, who knows what he may be going through, but he felt like you were the candidate to get the receiving end.
Mm-hmm.
And a gentleman like that, my bad, he's not even a gentleman yet. He's still a kid technically because he's not even 18. So he's still a young boy.
Right.
not sure what his emotions are, and his frustration is to take it out on someone, and you happen to be it. Whether
Right.
whatever the reason is, we don't know on his side. Did yours by then your son was born? Were you doing all the mom duty while going to school, or due to that you left school?
Oh no, I continued. So when I got married, I didn't finish. I did not complete my 8th grade. Um, so I completed that in the city where I married him in, which was Sacramento, California. So I completed my 8th grade there and my high school there. I had my son when I was in my junior year. And yes, throughout those years, I was a mother, a student, um, a daughter-in-law, a wife. Um, just trying to figure all this out, and at the same time trying to, know, be figure out myself.
And also dealing with the abusive husband.
Mhm. Yep,
Now
and dealing with the abuse.
he now at that time, let's go back a couple more years now. So you have your son. Let's say you just hit 21. Uh, your husband's 21 now too, and where put us back where that point in time was. The abusive got even worse by then.
Mhm.
Did you get to a point of like, it's been 5, 6, let's do the math, for 7 years now, like, okay, it's just one of the word shinde, right? Like, I can't take this no more. Like, did you
Mhm.
plan an escape route, or like, I need to get out of this? Or did you go to a therapist, whatever? Did you seek help, or do
Mhm.
you just trying to hide the bruises and then with a smile, even though you might have broken teeth, you didn't want to smile?
Yeah, you know what? In all the years that that I was married to him, my family never knew.
They never knew. Why did you tell them?
It was a lot of shame, um, a lot of embarrassment, um, and I, in all these years that I was with him, I've never heard of the word abuse. Believe it or not, I never heard of the word domestic violence. You know, um, I kind of lived in a cave. If you really like, if I was to really describe my life, I really lived in a cage or a cave. I mean, um, but my parents never knew. My family never knew, and it was because I was so ashamed of myself. I was so afraid to put my parents through so much because when I first got married when I was 13 years old, my parents came to try to get me back. I wouldn't go with them.
Why?
So when I was being abused, I didn't want to tell them that. I wanted them to know that or to think that I was okay. Um, now his parents knew, and I know that his parents tried their best to stop it, to try to tell him that it was wrong, that he shouldn't treat me that way. Um, but of course, at this point, his rage was so it had amplified, um, that whatever they said, "누친너나?" 이त니 더는 키모노긴 우리 꺄로 오는스나.
Mm.
And I remember one time we were was not totally sleeping, and he had asked me about work. Um, and I told him he asked me specifically if there was any men, that I worked with, and I told him that there was. Um, and he of course started with his accusations again, and I was just completely frustrated with him. I was angry. I was, and I had raised my voice a little bit. And the next day I knew he swung, and it had hit me where my nose was, the bridge of my nose. and my face it bruised. Oh my gosh, I looked like Mufasa, from the Lion King. The next couple days. So I went to the work the next few days. I had glasses on. My face was bruised. It looked like, I don't know if you ever seen the thing, after they have a laser eye surgery, laser eye surgery. Look more bruised up now. I don't know if you ever seen
Mm,
that, but then that's how I
no,
looked like.
I watch a lot of boxing and kickboxing, so I can see where that comes from.
Yeah, so that's
After
how I looked like. And
a cage math, yeah.
yeah, so that was how I looked like. My nose was swollen. I went to work with sunglasses on for a couple of days. Of course, when people ask what happened, it's like you doing you chụp bao nhiêu you thinking thế nào nhỏ thế you chụp bao hết tiền
Right.
rồi cái đó so you ngày hay là hết tiền oh you had an eye procedure or whatever. Whether they believed me or not at that time, I don't know, but that was my story. um and of course, he always, like I'm sure many people have heard, they will always come back with apologies along with blaming you. So it was always, I'm so sorry, I love you, but because you did this is why you did this, because you said that, this is why you did that. It was always that. So my mind at that time was so conditioned, to believe that it was my fault. To believe that, man, I should have just shut up. I should have just not said anything. I should have just lowered my voice. And maybe, don't like but the truth of the matter of fact is didn't matter. It would not have mattered because he was just looking for a reason to hit me. And no matter what I had responded, he would have created a reason to hit me because he hated himself that much.
Now, let's go back to ex-husband. Was this anger always in him, or something? It just seemed like he had so much anger in him. Was just what's triggering all this anger out of him? Just seemed like there was no love at all. Even he might have said "I love you," that was really dry of just didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it was like, as
Just
long as you did what I say, as long as you do what I say, then I love you. It was a very conditioned love. Well, I wouldn't even say it was love. It was a very conditioned marriage. Um,
his
you
way or
know
no way.
why he was so angry? After our marriage, many years, I still reflected on our marriage. I still reflected on him. I still reflected on myself. The common question usually is, why don't this person leave? And it's so much easier said than done. Um, and for me, I don't think I can't speak for anybody, but I'm sure most will agree. Just like about what I'm gonna say was during that time when I was being abused, I wanted to leave every single day. I wanted to leave him. I wanted to leave the situation. But it was more than me feeling ashamed. The feeling was deeper than that. It was just not me feeling ashamed for myself or my parents. It was just not me being embarrassed. Um, it was just not me worrying that Chakumuwe, kutu stop with or anything like that. It goes deeper than that. It goes deep to where I felt crippled. It's like, I don't know if you ever been so scared, like something like frozen, that's how I was. I knew that it was wrong. I knew this thing was wrong, But no matter how much I try to fight myself and try to persuade myself to leave, I couldn't. I couldn't persuade myself to know that if I was to leave, life was going to be better. I couldn't find myself, I couldn't persuade myself to believe that I deserved better. So I was not only physically decapitated, I was mentally decapitated. And that is what abuse do to a person. It conditions you so well and it scars you so deep that even if that person stops abusing you, you start doing it to yourself, and that's so important, for all of us to just take note that, when we hear that somebody's getting abused, it's just more encouraging for us to understand why they don't leave. They need our support more than ever because there's still that little whisper in their head, saying that I need to go, I need to leave, this isn't right. Just and believe in them, support them, encourage them. Let them know that, you support them and you love them regardless. And that's what they need to hear. They don't need to hear um, things like, why didn't you leave? You could do better. Um, or like blaming them, that they're getting hit or whatever. Um, but we need to understand that these victims, the reason why they don't leave, it cuts deeper than what we can see and what we can really understand.
Do you think he was fearing that? Did he ever think of you like seeing that you would leave him? Like he threatened you
Oh
pretty much
yeah.
like if you ever leave me, yeah, if you ever leave me, you can't find someone better. If you ever leave me, you're gonna starve to death. It,
Oh
it's pretty much,
yeah.
so
Of
he was
course.
that's the getting to verbally manipulating.
Oh yeah. There's many, many times where he's like, nobody's gonna want a divorcee, Well, you think you leave me, someone's gonna want you? Look at you. There's oh yeah, definitely. Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Hmm. So when you hear that enough, you start to believe it, you know. So we really have to take note that, the reasons why these women don't leave their abusive relationship, it's not because they love him so much and they can't leave. It's because they're so mentally decapitated. They're crippled. Their mind is crippled that they just can't.
And during that time, your kids saw all this too happening.
Yeah. My daughter at that time, she was quite young, so she doesn't really remember too much. She's the second child. But my oldest son, yeah, for sure, he has seen enough. And then my youngest, he was still a baby, so he doesn't remember. But my oldest, he has definitely seen enough. You know, when I had said earlier that we snuck out through the window, he was the one that was like, "Mom, hurry, hurry before Dad comes into the bedroom." And him and my daughter, they got out the window first, and then I handed my youngest, you know, out the window to him. So give me y'all not they know, they know, and it's important, that and we have this responsibility as parents and as even the abusive parent that's being abused. We have the responsibility to still be there for our kids. To still do our best to shelter them from this kind of abuse. Um, and it really wasn't until the day that that really clicked in my mind where I woke and I really found that courage to just leave.
That's
But it's not easy. It's
finally
definitely
took
isn't easy.
a lot to realize that it really hit you when you look at your kids. And I feel like that was the only backbone holding you a cripple
Mm-hmm.
when you looked at your kids in tears and sadness, and especially
Yeah.
your baby girl at the time.
Yes. That's very true. They were my only backbone at that time. And until this day, they have no idea how much they saved me. Um, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how I think many times as parents we think that we save our kids and we're there to protect our kids. But many, many times, like I always say, my kids has always been my greatest teachers. And many times it's them that saves us. So yeah, that's it's quite amazing.
Wow. I mean, being crippled at that point in time, being physically and mentally and verbally, I bet your state of mind is just so used to that point. And being in 10 years is just so much.
It was a
And
lot. It was a lot, but I have to really say, again that, I really was one of the lucky ones. I wish that, all the sisters, all the aunties, all the friends that I knew or I know that are living at the hands of their abuse or had died at the hands of their abuse, I wished that they, you know, had that chance, to be woken and to leave. Um, I really wish, but that's not the case. And that we all, as a human being, we have the responsibility to partake in these conversations and just learn to be more supportive of these victims, whether the person that's being abused is a man or woman or um, whatever status they are. We need to learn to be a little bit more supportive, a little bit more sympathetic, um, and just be there for them.
well, thank you for so much for being so heartily telling that to our listeners, and for those who are going through this, please listen from someone has been through this and out of this.
Yeah. No, whoever's going through this right now, please know that there is a way out. A safe way out. Please just don't up and just go without any plan. Please make sure you have a plan. Talk to somebody. Let someone know. Get out.
Now, you guys are adult now, and his rage and anger is just you can't do nothing about it. Did he treat anybody like that? Did you know, like his brother or his siblings, or maybe your dad and your in-laws, or he didn't show that at all?
He treated his mom like that.
Really?
Hmm.
He treated his mom so he would just yell and curse just any word, any word at his mom.
He wouldn't curse. At
But he's
least not that
raised,
I
but he has raised
remember
his
hearing.
voice. He'll raise his
Yeah,
voice.
he raised his voice. Anything that she says was disregarded. Um,
What about his
yeah,
sisters then?
No, because his sisters, they were married, so we rarely saw each other. So no,
Did they
even if he wanted
did,
to, he didn't get the chance
your
to.
sister or their sister, they ever kind of see the windows in your marriage? It's kind of like, hey, Mai, where'd you get that bruise on your head? Like, what's, like they're kind of curious and kind of like, what's really going on? Were they kind of, because there's family outing and usually you guys have to run into each other, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, his sisters, they were married and they were out of town, so we barely saw each other. So topic pona, then it was always when bruise na. But it was Nigel Niti, this is sister-in-laws and brothers that would see it.
What did
You
they
know,
do? What did they say?
like especially my sister-in-laws, Nigel Niti and Nigel Nitlana. And so, he's always been like that, things like that. They console you, and all that, so although he was so abusive to me, I have to say I was probably luckier than some women where I had sister-in-laws and in-laws where they tried their best to intervene,
And what happened?
and that's really all that I can ask for, that they tried their best.
Was there any way that they said anything to him that even triggered, like, you should be talking about our family or our marriage with my sister and et cetera, et cetera?
Did he ever say that, my
Yeah,
ex-husband?
yeah, because they knew that something was very, you're being abused.
No, because he wouldn't say that, because he was such a narcissist. He was so egocentric that he knew that whatever Guajira Lana or whatever Lahera Kuna, you should matter.
Okay.
Ni po the let's Lahera Kumpa it's not going to change the situation. Let's Lukumpa it's not going to change the situation, because he was in control and he had the power, and whatever he said went. And he knew that at the end of the day, I was coming back home with him.
Okay. Now with being on age, you're in the mid-20s. You have your second child by then, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was he
Yep.
was he a druggie or an alcoholic?
At this time, no.
No. So
Mm-mm.
it seemed like alcohol wasn't the factor, or I won't call it an excuse, but it just amplifies the rage.
Right.
It's from trying to get to is from the
Right.
drug
No.
or the alcohol. Um. So now it continues. Was there any way that by then you're well in your late 20s and he's 30 now, and I mean it's got to be it's 10 years now for crying out loud, like I gotta leave. This is you're grown up, you see you're well into your late 20s, early 30s, and you're like this is not right. I can't handle this. When did you come to your sense? It's just kind of like, I gotta leave this. I don't care if I had a three child with this man, but I can't stand this anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
seeking therapy was not going to happen. Going to the aunties and in-laws and such for help was not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they listen or not, it didn't happen. It was not going to make the situation better. He
Yeah.
he himself
Nothing.
probably, yeah.
I mean, of course, throughout those years, there were many, many, many times that I've contemplated that, I should leave. I need to leave. I need to leave. I knew it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't right. And I never once stayed because I thought I deserved it. I always knew it was wrong. Even though I didn't know what abuse was, I knew that hitting somebody you love was wrong. Making someone feel like shit, someone you love feel like shit, was wrong. And there are many times I contemplated leaving. There were even times where I contemplated suicide,
Oh,
and
Now, have you ever like tried asking them just like, hey, let's get therapy, or just talk to them like, I won't say how like sweet talk to them, but just more like talk to them like how a relationship should be, and for a marriage to be healthy.
That was an impossible conversation to have.
That was impossible. There's no
Yes.
way you couldn't like, hey honey, let's watch this movie, just kind of get his like mind kind of thinking, you know what I'm saying, like, or hey, read this article, this is a really good article about this couple, and you know what I'm saying, so he just kind of see what's
No,
out
we
there.
didn't. No, we didn't have a marriage like that. Um, it was always one way or the highway. That was it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it was a controlling marriage all around.
what's
You know,
what's
I remember
what's
I couldn't even go to the store with his sister when she visits. You know, I didn't have friends. Um, nothing. You know. So
Let's
yeah,
take this
so
back. Yeah, go ahead.
to put in his face that, hey, let's go have marriage counseling or go seek therapy, that would definitely been asking for a hit.
Tell me the worst of the worst, the point that you can't even walk maybe.
Let's see. I have not gotten to the point where I couldn't walk. There was a time when we were no, when when the abuse got really bad, we had moved out. So we had lived on our own for a couple of years. Um and then when it got really, really bad, that was when my in-laws said, you guys need to move back in. So we moved back in. We moved back in and lived with his in-laws. I mean, with my in-laws. And there was one day where I was just walking. I was in the living room. I was in the kitchen, and I had walked. And he had walked towards me, opposite of me, and he just swung his arm right where my neck was, and I just fell with unconscious. Like, it just came out of nowhere. I don't know what he was mad about, but it just came out of nowhere. And the next thing I knew, I laid down. I opened my eyes. My mother-in-law was next to me, and she was just crying, and she was just like, "Son, why would you do this to her? What did she do to you?" So that was that. And then another time was when um he had this was before we moved back to his parents. It was late at night in the morning. He had accused me of cheating, of infidelity. And he had beat me. He used to lift weights, so he had beaten me with some dumbbells, not on my face, but on my legs and my arm, and it bruised so bad. And so yeah, I think those were probably the two worst situations. Hmm.
Cops are never called, because that would
I did
definitely land
call
him. That definitely land him in jail. There's no doubt about that one.
Yeah, yeah. I did call the cops once, a few years before that, and I was gonna press charges, but I ended up not doing it. So I actually ended up bailing him out.
Bailing him out.
Hmm.
I just, in my right mind, just my little take on this is, I grew up in a very loving family, and I'm curious, but at the same time, I just like, I can't believe I'm hearing this. Like, this has never ever happened in my household, and my mom and dad, and to one day my future kids and wife. It's just like, that's not a way to love somebody.
Right, right.
I don't know how you tormented this for 15 years of marriage,
11.
11
Well,
years,
actually
a
10,
decade,
10 years,
a
because the
decade.
last, yeah, a decade. Man, I have to say, I really, really had angels, man. I really, really had angels watching over me.
we have stories of recent stories of domestic violence of the wife taking their own life
Mhm.
and or the husband's in jail. This didn't happen to neither of you.
No, thank God. Um, the last year of our marriage, I got really, really bad. That was he did eventually get into drugs. Um, and that was, I mean, if you have never been around an insane person, you don't want to be. All the signs are there. I mean, he was full blown crazy. And that last year, it's one day it just hit me. I had my 3 kids. My youngest was not even walking at that time, and one day I just looked at them and something just woke inside of me. I don't know what it was. I think, like I said, I think through all those years, I really, really had angels watching over me. One day I just woke and was just like, you know what? I gotta go. You know, Even I have no money, I don't know where to go. I knew that my grandparents lived in town, my mom's parents. I'm just gonna go, And one chilly afternoon day, while he was in the living room doing what he was doing, my kids and I were in the bedroom. Um, I wrapped my baby up. I told my kids, let's just go. We snuck out the window, took the taxi to my grandparents' house, and never looked back.
Really, not even out the front door. You're more like you did it. You weren't kidding when you escaped a jail. You literally escaped it by
Yeah,
sneaking out the window, not even giving him a hug and out the front door, but literally just, you snuck out the window, literally.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
let's really fast forward now. Okay.
yeah.
Let's fast forward to you now. I want to hear some of your thoughts of your experience of looking back, your thoughts of how you've grown to a woman, and your mind has opened to see what the definition of domestic violence is. Because back then you didn't even know what the word meant, or heck, even how to pronounce it, or what it was,
Well, yeah, or even heard of it.
or heard of it.
Hmm.
Can you tell us some of the insights or a word of advice for someone that is going through this?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say, I have forgiven him. Um, I had to. After the divorce, I mean, after I took off and our divorce is finalized, even though I was gone, what happened to me, the mental abuse, it really wrecked me for a very, very long time. I didn't have any confidence. I didn't feel I was worthy. I didn't know how to be a good mother to my kids. Um, it was I was really dark. So he took a lot from me. Um, and it took me years to even get to where I'm at today. To love myself, to know I'm beautiful inside and out, to know I have 3 amazing kids. I don't know if I'm a great mother yet, but I think I'm pretty good. Um, to find myself, spiritually again too. Um, but every now and then I still reflect back, and every time I hear stories of murder suicide or a woman who was murdered by their partner or their spouse, my heart sinks every time, because I still feel the chills. Um, but I just want to encourage those out there listening, especially the women, just know that Nunana is different from what it was years ago. People are starting to speak out. Women are starting to speak out. Even men are starting to speak out against domestic abuse. And to know that you're not alone. And for those who says who thinks that le chi sa khile ni tele tsi che ke le ponjumo or lunjin che khile ni te le ni tele tsi le ponjumo la tsalo cha ponjumo, tell them anyway. Who cares? Tell them. Tell somebody. You know? And you know what? If they tell you to, well, shouldn't they? Then you know what? They cannot help you. Go find somebody else that can help you. Um, and for those who are listening, who is the abuser, know that it's wrong. Know that what you're doing is wrong. Know that if you love somebody, you don't ever call them names. You don't ever lay your hand on them, ever, ever. There are other ways to release your anger. You know, so I encourage you that if you are somebody who's going through a lot of rage where you just want to punch somebody in the face, your spouse in the face, every time you get upset, please seek help. Talk to somebody. Don't let it get to the point where somebody dies. It's not worth it. You know, but I want to encourage the victims, the ones that's going through it, that, you know, at the end of the day, you have to be the one who makes that decision. Nobody knows the pain that you go through. It's scary on the other side, it really is, but once you go on the other side and you pick up those pieces again, you know, the sun does shine. You know, I'm proof of that. A lot of women are proof of that. And I also want to implore all the men out there that has really spoken out against domestic violence, you know, just thank you so much. I encourage that I encourage for us all to have these conversations with our kids, our sons, our daughters, our families, educate them about domestic violence, let them know what it is, teach them how to recognize it, especially our daughters. Let them know that, you know what, somebody that loves you will never call you names. Somebody that loves you will never place their hands on you. We have to teach them these things and to start these conversations and keep it going.
Preach. How are you mentally and physically today, Mai? You blossom into a beautiful woman.
You know, that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
I can honestly say I have been doing wonderful. And today speaking, I've never been happier than I am today. Um, I see life in such a new light. Um, and it's just amazing. You know, life is so beautiful, you know. Everyone deserves to appreciate life. If nobody deserves to live in such a dark, abusive life. Everybody needs to experience what I'm experiencing today. And it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And I can seriously say that from the bottom of my heart. Mentally, I've never been any happier. Physically, I am in great shape. Um, my kids are, you know, you know, they're great kids too. And I have a wonderful supporting family who, if not for my parents for the stand that they took for me when they found out I was abused, I would really not be here today. You know, so I really, really owe it to my parents and my brothers and my family. And most of all to my angels who's been with me all those years that, you know, I was living in darkness. So yeah.
Good. I'm really glad that you have found a sense of, you know, emotion in loving yourself, more importantly, and caring for yourself, more importantly, and loving for your
Mhm.
kids,
Mhm.
that you love them so much, and I know you do, and that you will always be them for there. And, you know, back about your ex, you forgive him, and we, you know, only hope that he's grown into a man and has worked on himself, his anger management, to become a better man,
Yeah.
and hopefully if he ever gets married one day, that next woman will be treated right.
Yes.
And we all
Yes.
do wish the best for him only.
Hmm.
um as
I
far
do
as your
too. There's no hatred towards him, nothing. I do wish him well.
yes, yeah, hopefully he's going through his own demons, and by now we hope, he's well into his mid-30s now, has come to a sense of a better understanding man,
Right. Right.
because we don't want the repeat of the second wife getting abusive and a third, fourth, and it's just repeating itself. And
Right.
we only hope for these gentlemen to learn from their mistake and only become a loving, caring future husband one day.
We can only hope, right?
Yes. Do you
We can only
know,
hope.
since you have found self-love, and do you think you ever will find someone besides you again, as in love again?
I hope so. I hope so, but I think sometimes I can be overly joy about life. So whoever I'm gonna meet, hopefully they, are on that same level of joy in life. Um, but yeah, definitely. I think what didn't y'all get into being stuff out the companion, somebody to share their life with, whether it's now or later. I think that's what everybody wants.
I've
Even
seen
when they say they
that.
don't need a, even when there are women who says they don't need a man in their life, I think I can speak for I think many women that um, we the word need is just not the right language, but I think we would appreciate the right companion.
You'll find your partner when you find yourself, and
Very
it will
true.
be it will be the darkest, and now getting, if you ever find someone, it'll be the brightest day that you always wanted this. That's how a marriage and a relationship could have been, would have been, and it is. And now you're in a relationship in that. So we only hope for that for you too, as well, Mai.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been it's been a really good couple of years, and I wouldn't go back and change anything. Just glad to have found that courage to just leave and never looked back. So,
Now, any last regards before we close off this episode?
um, last regards. I wouldn't really know, not really any last regards, but I just want to again to just reiterate that, let's continue to talk about this. And when I say talk about this, I'm saying, talk with your kids, your parents, especially in Hello na y'all. I find that every time we talk to y'all, um, when we get conversation na we check your Hello na your Tana, and I think we need that. They are an
Okay.
important part of this puzzle. We need to include them in these conversations as well. Other than that, we have to remember, like looking back at my ex-husband, um, he did grow up in a hostile family environment home, where his father didn't treat his mom the best either. So I would encourage that, for big your generation Nona, for us to treat our spouse differently, to know that our children are watching and they're modeling how we treat each other. And if we want our children to grow up in loving homes, we want them to have a loving relationship, loving marriage. we have the responsibility to teach them that and to model that for them. You know, but other than that, you know, I wish everybody well, you know, and I also want to send my deepest condolences to the families that had just, you know, lost their sister or their loved ones to just murder suicide.
Well, thank you so much. We're gonna wrap this up. Well, again, for me, Seesaw, and for my co-host Mai, we're gonna end it. And much love to you all, and much take care of
Yes,
yourself, Mai.
yes, thank you, Steph. Bye, everybody.
For the listeners, if you're going through this, or if you know of someone going through this, please just leave the relationship. Just leave. You heard it from my co-host Mai. I can't believe it happened to her. And if I was any closer, I would definitely give her a hug. I'm just, again, saddened by listening to this whole episode.
A life insurance consultant who also believes in building family values. She believes not only in investing in your future, but also investing in your present moment, creating time and memories with your family. If you have any insurance needs or any questions, please don't hesitate to call her at the link below.
Also, a special thanks to DJ Peter for using his beats. You can check him out at YouTube.